Welcome to day one of our 30-day deep dive into mindset, motivation, and money. We're kicking things off by really digging into the foundation of it all. Mindset. We've got some pretty fascinating insights from experts in psychology, self-help, and even business. We're going to unpack it all today.
Yeah, it's amazing how much power our mindset really has, right? It's kind of like the lens
Yeah,
that we use to see the world.
totally. But I think before we get too far, I think we should define mindset really clearly. 'Cause I
Right.
feel like it's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot. So what does it actually mean in a practical sense?
Yeah, you're right, it is. It's used a lot. In simple terms. Mindset is basically like the collection of beliefs and attitudes that we hold
Yeah.
about, ourselves, the world around us. And, this view acts like a filter for our experiences.
Okay. So is it just about being positive all the time then?
It's definitely more nuanced than that. It's not just about slapping on a happy face. It's really about how we interpret events, particularly when things get tough. A mindset shapes our reactions and ultimately the actions we take.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But can you give me an example of how different mindsets might approach the same situation?
Absolutely. Let's imagine two people facing a setback, right? One person has a fixed mindset, meaning they believe their abilities are basically set in stone.
So they might think, I'm just not cut out for this and give up easily.
Exactly. They're really hyper-focused on proving their talent, rather than putting in the work to grow. Fear of failure becomes a huge obstacle for them.
That makes a lot of sense. So now, how would somebody with a growth mindset, how would they view that same setback?
For them, a setback is an opportunity for learning and development. They believe their abilities can be cultivated through effort and dedication.
So instead of throwing in the towel, they might ask okay, what can I learn from this and how can I improve?
Spot on. They see challenges as a chance to get better.
So where do we see these mindsets playing out
Yeah.
in the real world? Are there any examples that come to mind?
Oh, there are tons. Take Jack Welch's leadership at GE, for example. He really fostered a culture of continuous learning and improvement. In fact, when problems would crop up, he often went straight to the factory workers,
Mhm.
because he valued their insights and problem-solving skills. That's growth mindset in action.
It's interesting because he could have easily just stayed in his executive office and barked orders.
He absolutely could have, but he didn't. And look at the success that GE saw under his leadership. Now let's flip the script. Let's look at Lee Iacocca's later years at Chrysler. His focus seemed to shift towards maintaining his image and kind of appeasing Wall Street. He became less concerned with, investing in the company's long-term future. And sadly, that fixed mindset ultimately led to Chrysler struggling once again.
Wow. Those are some really powerful examples of how impactful mindset can be on a large scale.
Right.
I mean, are there any other examples that come to mind that really illustrate these mindsets in action?
Oh yeah, tons. Pixar, the animation studio, they have a really cool practice called Notes Day. It's this dedicated day where everyone, regardless of their role, can provide honest feedback on their films. They can even disagree with the director. This creates a culture of continuous improvement and learning, which again is a hallmark of the growth mindset.
This whole fixed versus growth mindset thing
Yeah.
is really fascinating. But how does it actually play out in our day-to-day lives? I mean, how does it impact our thoughts and actions?
That's where it gets really interesting. One way our mindset influences us is through
Right.
the interplay between our thinking brain and our feeling brain.
Those terms sound familiar. Is that from the book that talks about how our brains are basically 3 pounds of tapioca pudding?
Yes, exactly. It might not sound very impressive, but our brains are capable of incredible change and growth. Anyway, the book argues that our feeling brain often makes decisions impulsively, based on emotions,
Yeah.
and then our thinking brain scrambles to justify those decisions with logic.
Oh, so it's like when I'm craving a donut, my feeling brain's screaming get it. And then my thinking brain tries to rationalize it by saying, well, you had a stressful day. You deserve it.
That's a perfect illustration. The key here is to recognize when your feeling brain is in the driver's seat. Acknowledge those feelings instead of battling them with logic alone.
That's a really interesting way to think about it, almost like treating our emotions with curiosity instead of the judgment.
Exactly. And another crucial aspect where our mindset really shows up is in our self-talk. How we talk to ourselves literally shapes our reality if we're stuck in a fixed mindset. Our self-talk will be full of limitations and negativity, but a growth mindset fosters self-talk that seeks out opportunities and solutions.
So if I'm constantly telling myself I can't do this, It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. You're basically creating your own limitations. It's like planting seeds of doubt that will grow
Yeah,
and affect your actions.
that's a bit unsettling,
Yeah,
but also empowering because it means we have the power to change those thoughts.
absolutely. And it all starts with awareness. Notice those negative thoughts as they pop up and then challenge them. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it even true? Is there a more constructive way to look at this?
So instead of just accepting those negative thoughts,
Uh,
we can choose to reframe them.
Precisely. And remember, it's not just about changing your thoughts. It's about taking consistent action
Mm.
in line with your new way of thinking.
This is making a lot of sense. So how do we actually make lasting change? How do we move beyond, like, just thinking differently?
There are 5 key steps: awareness, desire, belief, action, and reconditioning. First, you become aware of the need for change. Then you cultivate a genuine desire to make that change happen. Next, you build the belief that you can actually change. Then you take consistent action, aligned with your desired outcome. And finally, you recondition your mind by reinforcing those new patterns over time.
It sounds like we're basically rewiring our brains to operate in a new way. Do you have any tips on how to effectively put this 5-step process into practice?
One powerful tool is to harness the power of questions. Instead of dwelling on your limitations, ask yourself empowering questions. Things like, why do I do what I do? Or what can I learn from this? Or how can I improve?
Interesting. It's like shifting our focus from problems to possibilities. Instead of getting stuck in negativity, we're directing our energy towards growth and solutions.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your thoughts and steering them in a direction that serves you.
This has been so insightful. I mean, we've covered a lot about the fundamentals of mindset, from, fixed versus growth, to the interplay of our thinking and feeling brains, to the power of self-talk and, like, asking ourselves empowering questions. It's amazing how much control we have over our thoughts and ultimately our actions.
It truly is. And the best part is, we've only just scratched the surface.
That's right. We're just getting started on this 30-day journey. What else is in store for us as we dive deeper into the world of mindset, motivation, and money?
Well, next we're going to explore some truly inspiring stories of people who have pushed the boundaries of mindset and achieved some pretty remarkable things. Get ready to be seriously motivated.
I can't wait. We'll be back soon with more insights to help you unlock the power of your mindset. See you in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sometimes, like the most profound lessons, they come from the most unexpected sources.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. What do you have in mind?
Well, we were just talking about, the power of belief and its impact on our actions makes me think of the story of Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk who set himself on fire in protest.
Oh, yeah, I remember learning about him. It's such a powerful image. And honestly, pretty disturbing, the fact that he, remained completely still
Yeah,
while he was engulfed in flames. It's hard to forget.
exactly. Everything is fracked brings up his story to highlight, the incredible power of conviction to unwavering belief in his cause allowed him to endure unimaginable pain. It really makes you think about the strength of the human spirit and what we're capable of when we're driven by a really profound sense of purpose.
Yeah. It's a stark reminder that, our beliefs shape our reality in ways that we might not even realize. And speaking of pushing boundaries, what about David Goggins? His story in Can't Hurt Me is another incredible example, I think, of mindset in action.
Goggins is a fascinating example. Running a 100-mile ultramarathon with minimal training. That's not just physical strength. That's mental fortitude on a whole other level.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. Minimal training for 100 miles. What drove him to even attempt something like that?
Well, his story is really about overcoming immense challenges, both internal and external. He faced severe dehydration, physical injuries, you name it, but he just persevered. Goggins talks about using his mind to push past what he thought were his limits.
It's like he refused to let his mind dictate what his body could do. But wait, didn't he come in 5th place? He didn't even win, did he?
True, he didn't win. But just finishing the race under those conditions is a victory in itself, don't you think? And a testament to the power of his mindset.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'm starting to see a theme here. A monk self-immolating for his beliefs, an ultra-marathoner pushing his body to the absolute limit. I mean, these are some pretty extreme examples. How do we apply, these incredible feats of mindset to our everyday lives?
That's a great question. And it's important to remember that, Developing a growth mindset, it isn't about like comparing ourselves to others or, striving for the extreme. It's about having the courage to step outside our comfort zones and embrace the belief that we're capable of more than we think we are.
Yeah, I can see that. So how do we start? Where do we begin this process of expanding our beliefs about what's possible for us?
Well, there's a principle from Think by Design called MAYA, which stands for most advanced yet acceptable.
Hey, okay, tell me more. I like where this is going.
The idea is to aim for progress. That's both innovative and achievable. It's about creating like a personal manifesto, a set of guiding principles for growth that are challenging but still realistic,
So instead of trying to become like the next David Goggins,
Yeah.
we should focus on setting goals that stretch us, but still feel attainable.
Exactly. It's about making, consistent progress, even if those steps are small. It's the compound effect of those small wins that leads to significant growth over time.
Yeah, this is starting to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what are the fear, right? That often comes with pushing our limits. I mean, even David Goggins had moments when he wanted to quit, right?
He absolutely did. But he learned to tap into like his inner strength
Yeah.
and push through those feelings. And that's an important lesson for all of us. Building a growth mindset isn't about eliminating fear or
Yeah.
discomfort. It's about learning to manage those emotions and like using them as fuel to keep moving forward.
So it's about accepting that fear is a natural part of the process
Yeah.
and choosing to take action despite it.
Precisely. We can choose to let fear paralyze us, or we can choose to use it as a catalyst for growth.
Okay, so we've talked about some pretty intense examples
Yeah.
of mindset. It almost feels like we need to take a deep breath and kind of shift gears a bit. What about something like forgiveness? Where does that fit into all of this?
That's a great point. And it's something that Authentic Happiness explores in detail. Research has actually shown that practicing forgiveness can lead to, less anger, less stress, and improved overall health.
Really? So holding on to grudges
Mm.
is actually harmful to our well-being.
It seems so. Authentic Happiness suggests an exercise where you write a forgiveness letter. You don't have to send it, but the act of writing it can help you process your emotions and potentially, let go of some of that negativity.
That's interesting. So forgiveness isn't about condoning someone's actions, but it's about releasing ourselves from the burden of resentment.
That's a great way to put it. It's about choosing to free ourselves from the weight of the past, and the act of letting go can have a really powerful impact on our mental and emotional well-being.
It reminds me of something from Solve for Happy. He talks about how clinging to the familiar can be a source of fear, particularly when, facing death. The author describes the peace he felt when his son passed away and how his wife, despite her grief, found solace in saying goodbye.
Yeah, that's a profoundly moving experience, and it speaks to, the transformative power of letting go, whether it's a past hurt, a loss, or even limiting beliefs that
Yeah.
no longer serve us.
So in a way, forgiveness is a form of letting go and finding peace within ourselves.
I love that. It's about creating space for
Yeah.
healing and growth.
Okay, I'm really starting to connect the dots here. But before we move on, I wanted to circle back to something we talked about earlier, fixed versus growth mindsets. Mindset by Carol Dweck. She delves deeper into this, and she emphasizes that developing a growth mindset isn't just about simply telling kids they can do anything.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's like that old saying, right? You can be anything you want to be when you grow up. It's a nice sentiment, but not very helpful without, the tools and support needed to actually achieve those aspirations.
It's about empowering them with the resources
Yeah.
and guidance.
Yeah.
Turn those dreams into reality.
Exactly. And Dweck also cautions against falling into the trap of what she calls false growth mindsets.
False growth mindsets. I haven't heard that before. What are those?
It's when people talk about growth, but they don't walk the walk.
Yeah.
They might praise effort, but deep down, they still prioritize talent over hard work.
So it's like putting a growth mindset label on a fixed mindset way of thinking.
Precisely. And that's why it's so crucial to understand the true meaning of a growth mindset and commit to, embodying it in our actions and our beliefs.
Okay, so we need to be mindful of the potential for self-deception when it comes to cultivating a growth mindset. But what about those times when our emotions kind of get the best of us? When we feel overwhelmed or anxious or just stuck. The happiness trap seems to offer some really useful strategies for managing those moments.
It does. One technique they highlight is called diffusion, which basically involves recognizing that our thoughts are just thoughts, not facts.
So instead of saying, like, I'm a failure, I might say, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure.
Yes, exactly. By creating that separation, we can reduce the power that our thoughts have over us.
That's a really helpful way to reframe things. So it's about, like,
Yeah.
observing our thoughts without judgment and choosing how we want to respond, rather than letting those thoughts control us. What other techniques does the happiness trap suggest?
Another important one
Mm.
is acceptance. It's
Mhm.
about acknowledging our difficult emotions
Hmm.
without trying to fight them or push them away.
Yeah, I can see how that could be helpful, but how do we accept something, right, that feels so unpleasant?
Well, the book suggests a helpful metaphor. Imagine your emotions as waves. In the ocean, they come and they go, but they don't define you or your worth.
I like that. It reminds us that, like, emotions are temporary, even though they might feel really intense in the moment.
Yeah.
You don't have to control us.
Exactly. And by accepting those difficult emotions, we can start to create space for healing and growth.
Okay. This is all starting to make a lot of sense. It's like we're building a toolkit for, like, navigating the ups and downs of life with more resilience and self-awareness. What about connecting with our bodies? How does that factor into, like, managing our emotions?
That's another strategy the Happiness Trap recommends. It's about shifting our focus from our thoughts to our physical sensations. This could involve things like taking deep breaths, noticing the feeling of our feet on the ground, or simply paying attention to, like, the rise and fall of our chest as we breathe.
So it's about grounding ourselves in the present moment through our physical senses.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And by doing so, we can create a sense of calm and stability amidst the storm of our emotions.
This is really valuable stuff. But what about the bigger picture, right? How does our mindset impact our overall happiness and well-being?
Well, that's where the how of happiness comes in. It suggests that, like, happiness isn't just a result of our genes or our circumstances, but also of our intentional activities and strategies.
So we have more control over our happiness than we might realize.
Absolutely. The book presents a fascinating concept. It's called a happiness pie chart.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about this happiness pie chart.
It basically breaks down happiness
Hmm.
into 3 components. 50% is determined by our genes, 10% by our life circumstances, and the remaining 40% is within our control.
So even if we're, like, not genetically predisposed
Mm.
to be happy, or if we're facing, challenging circumstances, we still have, like,
Mhm.
a significant amount of influence
Yeah.
over our overall well-being.
Exactly. And that's incredibly empowering, wouldn't you say?
It is. It's like we're not just victims
Yeah.
of our circumstances or our genes. We have the power to shape our own happiness. So what specific strategies from the how of happiness can help boost, like, that 40% that's within our control?
Well, one that really stands out is practicing gratitude.
Gratitude. I can see how that might, like, make us feel good
Yeah.
in the moment, but how does it contribute to, long-term happiness?
Well, it's about actively focusing on and appreciating the good things in our lives, big or small. It could be keeping a gratitude journal, writing a gratitude letter, or even just, like, taking a few moments each day to reflect on what we're thankful for. It's about training our minds to notice and savor the positive rather than dwelling on, like, the negative.
That makes sense. So instead of focusing on what we lack, we're, like, shifting our attention to what we already have. What other strategies does the How of Happiness recommend?
Another powerful one is cultivating optimism.
Optimism. But isn't that just wishful thinking?
Not necessarily. Optimism is about having a positive outlook on the future and believing that, things will generally work out for the best.
So it's about, like, expecting positive outcomes,
Yes.
even in the face of challenges.
Exactly. And it's not about, ignoring problems or
Right.
pretending that everything is perfect. It's about approaching difficulties with a belief in our ability to overcome them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So optimism isn't just about, like, feeling good. It's about empowering us to take action and create the lives we want. So how does optimism contribute to happiness?
Well, optimistic people, they tend to be more resilient, more persistent, and more successful. They're less likely to give up, in the face of adversity, and more likely to achieve their goals.
It's like optimism, like, fuels our motivation and gives us the energy to keep going, even when things get tough.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow. We've covered so much ground today, from, the power of belief to the importance of forgiveness, to the role of gratitude and optimism. It's clear that, like, our mindset plays a profound role in shaping our experiences and ultimately our happiness.
I completely agree. And the amazing thing is, we've only just scratched the surface of this incredible topic.
That's right. We're just getting started on our 30-day journey of exploring mindset, motivation, and money. So what can our listeners look forward to as we continue this deep dive?
Well, in our next part, we'll be wrapping things up with some practical tips and powerful takeaways for integrating these mindset principles into your daily life.
That sounds great. We'll be back soon with more insights to help you unlock the power of your mindset. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive to mindset, motivation, and money. We've covered a lot of ground already, in exploring the power of belief, the importance of forgiveness, and even like how to manage those pesky emotions that can sometimes kind of derail us.
It's been quite a journey so far, and we're not done yet. We've touched on gratitude and optimism, but there's another element that's like crucial for long-term happiness and success, and that's finding our why.
Our why? What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, think of it as like the driving force behind everything we do, the purpose that fuels our actions and gives our lives, meaning. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. It really dives deep into this whole concept.
Okay. I'm curious. Can you elaborate on like why? Understanding our why is so important.
Sure. Think about Apple. Like, what sets them apart? Why do people love their products so much? It's not just about, sleek design or like innovative features. It's about what Apple represents, challenging the status quo, empowering individuals, thinking differently.
So it's about like more than just the products themselves. It's about the values and beliefs that they embody.
Exactly. People connect with their why, their core purpose, and that's what makes them so compelling.
That makes sense. But how does this apply to like us as individuals?
Well, it's about identifying what truly motivates us, what gets us, excited, what makes us feel like alive. When we tap into our why, we unlock like a deeper source of energy and purpose.
So it's like finding our internal compass and letting it guide our decisions and actions.
That's a brilliant analogy. And Start with Why highlights that this why often originates with an individual, a visionary leader who inspires others to join their cause.
Can you give me like an example of what you mean?
Sure. Take Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. His vision was to create a company that served everyday people by offering, affordable prices and excellent customer service.
So it was about like more than just making a profit. It was about making a difference in people's lives.
Precisely. That why permeated Walmart's culture and their operations, and it's what attracted, loyal customers and dedicated employees.
Okay, I see how understanding our why can be like incredibly motivating.
Yeah.
But how do we actually, figure out what our why is? It feels kind of like big and abstract.
Well, it's a process of self-reflection and exploration. Ask yourself, what am I truly passionate about? What impact do I want to have on the world? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind?
It sounds like a journey of getting to know ourselves on a deeper level. And it's probably not like a quick or easy process, is it?
You're right. It does. It takes time and effort.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. Once you uncover your why, it becomes this like guiding force in your decisions, your actions, your relationships.
This is really powerful stuff we've talked about, like so many different concepts and strategies today. But how do we like bring it all together? What are some practical tips for integrating these mindset principles into our everyday lives?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. Atomic Habits offers a fantastic framework for making lasting changes.
Okay, tell me more. I'm always up for practical tips.
The book really emphasizes the importance of small, consistent actions over time.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like overhaul our entire lives overnight, we focus on making like tiny improvements each day.
So it's about building momentum through like consistent effort rather than relying on bursts of motivation.
Exactly. It's those small, consistent actions that compound over time and lead to significant results. One strategy they recommend is called habit stacking.
Habit stacking. That sounds interesting. What is that?
Well, it's about linking a new habit to an existing one.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you want to start like meditating every morning, you might stack it onto your existing habit of, making coffee.
So like after I make my coffee, I sit down and meditate for a few minutes.
Precisely. It creates like a trigger that reminds you to practice a new habit and makes it more likely to stick.
That's brilliant. I can see how that would make it like easier to build new habits without having to rely solely on like willpower. Are there any other tips from Atomic Habits?
Another important one is designing our environment to support our desired habits. It's about making the cues
Yeah.
for good habits obvious and visible, while making the cues for bad habits invisible.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like setting ourselves up for success
Yeah.
by creating an environment that like nudges us
Yeah.
in the right direction.
Exactly. It's about reducing temptation.
Yeah.
And making it easier to do the things that are aligned with, our goals.
Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored so much, the power of beliefs, the importance of forgiveness, the role of gratitude and optimism, the impact of finding our why, and even like practical strategies for building positive habits.
It's been a pleasure exploring these concepts with you, and I hope our listeners feel inspired and equipped to start
Incredible.
applying these principles to their own lives.
Me too. And remember, this is just the beginning of our 30-day journey. There's so much more to discover as we continue to explore mindset, motivation, and money.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought to ponder. If our mindsets are constantly shaping our experiences, what story are you telling yourself right now?
That's a powerful question
Yeah.
for all of us to consider. Choose your story wisely because it has the power
Yeah.
to shape your reality. Until next time.